This horrible ordeal was punctually executed. At noon the guests were summoned to wash by the music of the walls. The king took his seat by the principal officers of his court, at the high table, and the rest of the company were marshalled at a long table below him. On the cloth were placed portions of salt at the usual distances, but neither bread, wine, nor water. The ambassadors, rather surprised at this omission, but still free from apprehension, awaited in silence the arrival of the dinner, which was announced by the sound of pipes, trumpets, and tabors, and beheld with horror and dismay the unnatural banquet introduced by the steward and his officers. Yet their sentiments of disgust and abhorrence, and even their fears, were for a long time suspended by their curiosity. Their eyes were fixed on the king, who, without the slightest change of countenance, swallowed the morsels as fast as they could be supplied by the knight who carved them. Every man then poked other. They said, "This is the devil's brother, that slays our men, and thus hems eats." Their attention was then involuntarily fixed on the smoking heads before them. They traced in the swollen and distorted features the resemblance of a friend or near relation, and received from the fatal scroll which accompanied each dish the sad assurance that the resemblance was not imaginary. They sat in torpid silence, anticipating their own fate in that of their countrymen, while their ferocious entertainer, with fury in his eyes, but with courtesy on his lips, insulted them by frequent invitations to merriment. At length this first course was removed, and its place supplied by venison, cranes, and other dainties, accompanied by the richest wines. The king then apologized to them for what had passed, which he attributed to his ignorance of their taste, and assured them of his religious respect for their characters as ambassadors, and of his readiness to grant them a safe conduct for their return. This boon was all that they now wished to claim, and King Richard spake to an old man, "Wends home to you, Soudan, his melancholy that yet abate, and says that ye came too late, too slowly was your time, my guest. Ere ye came, the flesh was dressed, that men shoulden serve with me. Thus at noon am I many. Say him it shall be nought avail, that he forbar us our victual. Bread, wine, fish, flesh, salmon, and conger, of us none shall die with hunger, while we may wenden to fight, and slay the Saracens downright. Wash the flesh and roast the head. With one Saracen I may well feed well a 9 or a 10 of my good Christian men. King Richard shall warrant, there is no flesh so nourishant unto an English man. Partridge, plover, heron, ne swan, cow ne ox, sheep ne swine, as the head of a Saracen. There he is fat, and thereto tender, and my men be lean and slender, while any Saracen quick be, living now in this Syrie. For meat we will nothing care, about and fast we shall rear, and every day we shall eat all as many as we may get. To England will we not gone, till they be eaten every one." Else these specimens of early English metrical romances. The reader may be curious to know owing to what circumstances so extraordinary an invention as that which imputed cannibalism to the King of England should have found its way into his history. Mr. James, to whom we owe so much that is curious, seems to have traced the origin of this extraordinary rumour. With the army of the Cross also was a multitude of men, the same author declares, who made it a profession to be without money. They walked barefoot, carried no arms, and even preceded the beasts of burden in their march, living upon roots and herbs, and presenting a spectacle both disgusting and pitiable. A Norman, who, according to all accounts, was of noble birth, but who, having lost his horse, continued to follow as a foot soldier, took the strange resolution of putting himself at the head of this race of vagabonds, who willingly received him as their king. Amongst the Saracens, these men became well known under the name of Thafurs, which Guibert translates Trudentes, and were beheld with great horror from the general persuasion that they fed on the dead bodies of their enemies, a a report which was occasionally justified, and which the king of the Thafurs took care to encourage. This respectable monarch was frequently in the habit of stopping his followers, one by one, in a narrow defile, and of causing them to be searched carefully, lest the possession of the least sum of money should render them unworthy of the name of his subjects. If even 2 sous were found upon any one, he was instantly expelled the society of his tribe, the king bidding him contemptuously buy arms and fight. This troop, so far from being cumbersome to the army, was infinitely serviceable, carrying burdens, bringing in forage, provisions, and tribute, working the machines in the sieges, and above all spreading consternation among the Turks, who feared death from the lances of the knights less than the further consummation they heard of under the teeth of the Thafurs. James's History of Chivalry. It is easy to conceive that an ignorant minstrel, finding the taste and ferocity of the Thafurs commemorated in the historical accounts of the Holy Wars, has ascribed their practices and propensities to the monarch of England, whose ferocity was considered as an object of exaggeration as legitimate as his valour. Abbotsford, 1st July 1832. End of the Introduction.